In today's video, I'm going to show you how I made exterior siding for my cardboard dollhouse. In my last video, I showed you how I made the windows. The windows needed to be done before the siding can go on. With this project, I am endeavoring to only use materials that I have in my home, without going out to buy anything new. I looked through my mat board storage box to see what I could find. I keep mat boards to frame artwork. I almost always have white mat board on hand, and I save the scraps, including the windows I cut out when framing artwork, and even smaller pieces. I try to use up the scraps before cutting up any new boards. I use my mat cutter, the tool that I use when framing artwork. I always keep an extra mat board on my cutter that stays underneath whatever I'm cutting to protect the mat cutter, but since I have been using it a lot lately, the old board becomes frayed and it needs to be replaced. With the new board in place, I can begin cutting my siding. I have a small scrap which I use as a guide to keep all my pieces uniform in width. They're approximately 1 inch for my exterior siding boards. My supervisor looks on at my work. She is always entertained by the activities of my hands. When I'm done cutting, I put away my blade. I wouldn't want my furry friend to play with it and cut herself. She plays with everything. Just like a real house, we start siding on the very bottom edge and work our way up. Each board will overlap about halfway, giving the appearance of real siding. I use a generous amount of glue. You will notice that I already have the corner pieces on, so I measure and mark each piece to fit between the corners. As I come to the window, I have to cut out a slot so the board will lay in the proper place. I mark and cut out the slot with a craft knife to make the board fit. I will show you that process later. When working on both sides of the window, I try to line up the boards so that they look like one continuous board from one side to the other. This is where I can reach from my short scraps. Each piece is measured, marked, and cut to fit. I use large, multi-purpose scissors, which you will see after a while. Oops, I thought this board would go on whole, but just when I went to place it, I realized that it needed a slot cut out to go above the window. I always check the fit to make sure I got the cuts right before gluing in place. The places between the windows is a great place to use up those short strips. I work on a self-healing mat and use a craft knife to cut the slots to go around the windows. This is the back side of the house. I debated whether or not to put windows there. Finally settled on the idea that more light was needed in the rooms, so 3 more windows have been added. The smaller window is for the kitchen. I did not add a 3rd window in the living room because I'll be putting in stairs on that back wall. You can see from this angle that I have the scraps organized by size, which makes it easier for me to choose the pieces to go on either side of the windows. I have changed glues. I started off with tacky glue, but here you see me using Gorilla Glue, thinking perhaps maybe it'll be a stronger glue. I mean, I've not had a problem with the tacky glue, but I don't know. You know, I'm gotta experiment and try new things. Another later decision was adding a half-circle window to the attic to bring light into the attic space, so it could be used for a 3rd bedroom. So I took a pause from siding to build that window. I have a separate video on the making of that arched window. Finishing the gabled side of the roof is not very different than the rest of the siding. I'm just cutting off the ends as angles to match the angle of the roof. Once again, I thought I was done slotting pieces. I was wrong. 1 more long piece is needed. Now the rest of this is pretty self-explanatory. Obviously, one side is angled, the other side is curved. I measure, mark, and cut each piece to fit. Don't forget, the pieces still need to overlap about halfway. was able to cut most of the curves with my big scissors. This last piece above the window I could not do with scissors. I had to go back to my craft knife to cut out the arched opening. I didn't get it exactly right, so I had to recut another piece, making the necessary adjustments from the first piece. Here's a profile view of how the siding overlaps the boards below it. Since I had initially used foam core to frame the windows, which is relatively soft material, I felt it better to go over them with an additional strip of mat board. The foam core's thickness matched the level of the siding, but I wanted the window frames to stick out just a little bit beyond the siding. I cut the strips slightly wider than the original width of the frame to also cover the gap between the siding and the window frame, which I think gave it a more realistic appearance, like real frames. The exterior siding is done. All I have left to do is the roof, which will be my next video. Then I want to give a protective coating on the entire exterior, but I need to do some experiments to figure out what my best approach will be. I'll save that for another video. I also added strips to the corners. The dollhouse is almost complete. Building the staircase is coming up soon. I think it looks pretty good, considering it is made from a Walmart cardboard box and using only found materials I already had on hand. If you missed previous episodes of building this house, see my playlist, Cardboard and Paper Creations. If you want to see more of this project, subscribe and hit the notification bell below this video. Thanks for watching.